You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from Newstalk ZB.
Full commentary of the All Blacks Springboks game from 3 tomorrow morning with our rugby editor and match commentator Elliott Smith, who's been with the All Blacks in Joburg all week. Elliott, what feeling do you get from the All Blacks ahead of what will be, I'm sure, a massive test match for them?
Yeah, it's interesting, Piney. Look, I spoke to Geordie Barrett earlier in the week and Tyrell Lomax sort of in a one-on-one extended conversation where you learn a bit more about the player and also about how they're feeling about the game. And Tyrell Lomax was fairly upfront and saying that they are underdogs for this game, but there's a sense in the team that obviously that they believe they can go at Ellis Park. Everything's against them. Recent form, the way the Springboks have been playing, 60,000 South African fans in the stands, everything like that. The altitude too. But speaking to him and to Geordie Barrett as well, who played the old foe sort of line and their the biggest foe that they can face. I think there's a steely determination for this All Blacks team that they believe they're capable of delivering a result at Ellis Park and almost sort of embracing that underdog tag a little bit that they feel that they've got, given the results so far between the two sides and the fact they're playing the world champions for the first time since that World Cup final.
Do you think that World Cup final is being used in any way as motivation, even if they're not saying it?
I don't think so. Maybe for specific players, I'm sure Sam Cane maybe at the back of his mind has a desire to get a better outcome than what we saw in that World Cup final. And for a number of players, it's still there. But to a man this week, that said that it hasn't been mentioned in camp. But I'm sure you can't escape it. There'll be memories when they go out onto Ellis Park, and see the Springboks jersey, see that dark green with gold trimmed Springboks jersey that, the last time they played was in a World Cup final and the hurt that went along with that. Scott Barrett said earlier today that, it's a game that he doesn't think he'll ever get over. So I think individually it'll play a part in their build-up, but sort of collectively as a team, it sounds like it hasn't been mentioned and hasn't been drawn upon for their build-up for this game. A lot's changed since then in terms of the coaching setup for the All Blacks, new captain, a lot of new backroom staff as well, and there's been changes to the Springboks too. So the All Blacks fairly keen on downplaying the significance of the World Cup final and very much looking forward rather than backwards.
If you, I guess, thought of a full-strength All Blacks team with everybody fit and available, and then you look at the team that's going to run out at Ellis Park, you land on a couple of players. I'm keen to get your thoughts on them. How big a test is this for Piney Williams?
Yeah, huge. This is the biggest test that he'll face in his career to date. I think Piney, he's impressed in the opportunities that he's had. He seems to have been, I don't know if pigeonhole's the right word, but certainly he either starts or he doesn't get an opportunity too often on the bench. They seem pretty set on Fletcher Newell and Ofa Tuangafasi backing up the starters, so it's hard to crack there. They've got a pretty good punch, they feel, in terms of the props, but I think it is a major opportunity for him on Sunday morning New Zealand time. He's coming for Ethan de Groot. I think Piney Williams is only improving as a scrummager. I think his work around the park is also on the improve as well. I thought he had a very good test last time out against Argentina in Auckland, but when you match up against the Springbok scrum, and both these teams like using it as a weapon. We saw the All Blacks use it really well against England, a similarly strong scrummaging pack front row. So big test for Piney Williams. You look at him and go, he's the kind of body frame that the All Blacks have been searching for. Ethan de Groot is, still obviously the incumbent, but I think he can make some real inroads with a sort of statement performance over the next couple of weekends.
And Caleb Clark's got the nod on the left wing. He didn't get a lot of opportunities last year, did he? But and even at the start of this year, he probably thought he was behind the likes of Mark Talaya and others in the pecking order. Why do you think they've gone Caleb Clark, and how big a game is this for him?
Yeah, I think it's a big game for Caleb Clark to try and cement back that 11 jersey. You think back to the when he debuted for the All Blacks in 2020, and it felt like we had a new superstar on our hands, and the way he played, especially the Bledisloe against Australia at Eden Park that year. He was dynamic. He was exceptional. Since then, he struggled to sort of recapture those heights. But I think the hard-running style of Caleb Clark, the big body, will be huge. He's great under the high ball as well. I really like this selection. I also actually like the the way they've gone about it with Mark Talia off the bench. I think he's still developing as a bench player, Mark Talia, but he's so slippery, isn't he? And you think about that coming on late in the game against tired defences. He's kind of the player that can break the line, can get through. Caleb Clark has been exceptional with his line breaks. His stats in Super Rugby speak to themselves this year. He had a very good Super Rugby season and built into it quite nicely with a hat-trick in the final. So in terms of cementing that 11 jersey, I think it's still firmly a live conversation. Mark Talia is right there, and in fact, he'll be on the bench, of course, looking over. So a big opportunity for Caleb Clark if the ball goes his way. It probably didn't go his way too often in that game at Eden Park, last time out. So he'll be keen to get more opportunities in the game, and I'm sure try and, as I say, cement that jersey for the coming Test matches.
And a lot's made of the fact that this game is at altitude. Johannesburg, Pretoria, obviously, are the two altitude grounds, if you like, compared to Cape Town, where you'll be next week. For the average person like yourself in Johannesburg, is the change in altitude obvious?
Yes, it is, yeah. I've noticed this week the air is a little thinner. Going up steps, you get a little more puffed out of breath than you probably should. You feel a little bit more tired, I think, is the way about it, and you're desperate for a bit more water than maybe you'd usually take on board. I find my mouth getting a little bit drier than it probably would throughout the times of the day, so I've been well armed with a water bottle to make sure of that, and I've had the dreaded altitude nosebleed as well. So I've had it all, Piney, over the last few days, but you do notice it. It is a different experience, and for a few of these players in the All Blacks, they won't have experienced it at least before sort of training earlier on in the week and landing on the ground. There's been a number of players in the squad. Look at the bench and Cortez Ratama, Sam Piney now, who haven't travelled to South Africa before in Super Rugby because that opportunity doesn't exist anymore. So when you land in Johannesburg, it's not like you've had the experience of playing the Lions at Ellis Park and you know the way around the high veld and gone to Loftus and played the Bulls. You're experiencing it for the first time, and as a civilian, you do notice those differences, and the lungs burn a little bit deeper. Spoke to Geordie Barrett, and he mentioned your lungs burn a little bit deeper earlier in a game than you would expect, and it's all new to some of those players in the All Black setup, so they have to be ready to combat it. I know it's been mentioned this week around some of those tactics you can use to improve and deny it for as long as you possibly can, but it's certainly something they'll have to combat on Saturday afternoon here in local time. All
right, keep the water bottle nice and handy, Elliott. Can't wait for your call in the early hours of New Zealand time. Really appreciate your work this week, and can't wait to see how it plays out at Ellis Park.
I'll stay well hydrated. Thanks, Piney.
Good on you, mate. Elliott Smith, our rugby editor and match commentator. 3 o'clock tomorrow morning, full commentary of the All Black Springboks test here on Newstalk ZB.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to Newstalk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.